Well, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to our newest episode of Retention Chronicles. We are super pumped today. I feel like one of the cool kids, Mariah. We have
I do too.
Ari Murray on,
So do I.
Sharma Brands, and one of the best. I just subscribed recently, like a month ago, but one of the best marketing newsletters for e-commerce overall, called Go to Millions. It's like one of three that I read every single time it hits my inbox. So thank you for blessing
I rank
all with that, Ari. And
Thank
we are super, super pumped to have you. So thanks so much for giving us some time.
Well, thanks for having me. And I paid Noah to say that, so I'm glad my money went far. But yeah, it means a lot. And thanks for reading.
Of course, yes. I think you're launching a new podcast too, which we might get to. That's super exciting. But little bit of context on our relationship. I know Yao and Nik, founder of Sharma Brands, go way back. I think Nik was involved like early days of Malomo and sort of ideation, and was a great resource for Yao as he was launching Malomo. And since then, we've worked together on a ton of brands. I think, Ari, you've been personally involved in a few of the implementations of Malomo. We've been able to set up Malomo with a couple of Sharma's in-house brands as well, which is super exciting. And I think a couple in progress right now. So that is awesome. We want to get into the weeds on all of that a little bit more. But before we do that, we always like to ask you, our guests, what are one or two things that you're excited about in your personal life before we talking shop?
I love that. I think I'm most excited. So kind of a newlywed, like I got married last year. So I've almost been living in Austin with my husband for a year. So very excited about just our new life here and moving into a new apartment. That's going to be great.
Always fun.
Yeah. Just like a move on the books. It's the same building, so I don't think it really counts, but I'll lean into like, it's a whole new energy. So
yeah,
that's kind of all I need. Yeah. Just a brand new version of the same thing. And then just my new life in Austin is serving me. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
Were you in New York before?
I was in LA. So I was always in LA.
Okay.
And then this is the first foray, whatever the word is. The first time not living in Los Angeles.
It sounded good. So what sparked the move to Austin? I love Austin. I've been there a few times, and I know it's like everybody and their mom are going there right now.
I have been told, I'm like, go to Austin. I'm like, maybe it's the next city. Who knows? Yeah.
You have to move here. So my husband and I each wrote down 5 cities we would move to, and it's the only place that we both wrote down. So that's the whole story.
Wow.
We just decided in like an hour, and then we flew here and got an apartment and never looked back.
Wow. That is very cool. So had you both been many times before?
Yeah. So we almost got married here. So we were doing a lot of wedding planning. And then we decided we couldn't have a big wedding because it panics me, but we had just come here a lot and had fun. And so it was the only place that overlapped. I wanted to move to New York or Boston, and he wanted to move to Miami. And this is way better than that. So we're happy.
Yeah. You kind of meet in the middle there.
Yeah.
It's hard to have like Northeast vibes, don't necessarily mesh very well with Miami vibes.
No, and I'll take this over Miami any day, so I'm good. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, you did well there. Very cool. Well, hopefully, Austin's on our short list of cities we'd like to do an event in, like a partner event or something like that this year. So we'll certainly keep you posted on that if we make it down.
Please.
But that's very, very exciting. So real quick, like why the move to a new apartment? Is it just better location, better
view, and then it has just like better stuff in it. So just better of the same version. Like it has like a bathtub in our room. Like it's just cooler.
Wow.
Oh, that's nice.
Did you look at houses at all? Because I know the housing market there is just
so I have this thing where I want so many things in life. My wish list is overflowing, and I have no deep desire to buy a house. So we it's just not on my list of requests at this time. I can barely handle my apartment. So slowly but surely, give me 3 years to be an adult.
I feel you on that. I bought my house 2 years ago, and it was like the biggest shock of all time when I moved in here, and I was like, oh my God, I am not mature enough for this.
Yeah, I know myself. If something breaks, I like, what would I do? You know, I'm not ready. Yeah.
You got to call maintenance.
Yeah, exactly. I got to put in a little service request and bada bing.
And they'll deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
I've like, most people don't do this, but when I bought my house, it came with a home warranty policy. So like if anything happened in that first year, the home warranty would cover it for a small fee. I've renewed it now twice. So for 3 years, because like I want to be able to put in my maintenance request if a faucet's leaking, because I have no idea how to fix that.
That makes me feel better, like being in an apartment currently, and I'm not going to buy a house for a while. Like, you know what? Yeah, I feel that.
Okay, awesome. Well, congrats on the new place. Congrats on Austin. That is very awesome. And getting married as well. All right, let's get into Sharma. So, would love to, I know you have a really interesting background, so I'd love to sort of start there. Like what you were doing before Sharma. I think it was a few different things, and what led you to Sharma, and sort of what's the day-to-day life like now as head of growth.
Yeah. So before Sharma Brands, I had always been brand side, and as an e-commerce manager or just on the e-commerce team at some really cool brands, helping to launch them. And I met Nik when I was working at Poosh. He reached out to me and we went on like one Zoom call, and he made me get a Twitter on the call. And my first tweet in 2020 was like, Nik Sharma made me do this. And then I didn't open it again for 2 years. But then I was at a brand and Nik posted a role for, I think it was the director of growth. And my husband is friends with Nik, and a few of the people that I just know were good friends with Nik. So I made them all text him in the same second to be like, Ari would kill it as your director of growth.
That's awesome.
And
that's
then
amazing.
He texted me and was like, oh, I keep hearing your name. I was like, oh, really? And then like I think I like signed my offer the next day. So it was very quick. And now I've been here for a little over 1.5 years. And now I'm VP of growth, just managing our clients and making sure that for all of them, we make them really, really rich. So every landing page, every ad, every launch rolls into that main goal of making them really successful. And so I have my hands on all of that and just managing the team and working to kind of act as like the growth arm of Sharma Brands, and just that it all comes true for them.
Sure. I know you had a ton of growth last year, and I think you're opening a new office in New York. Is that right?
Yes, it's almost ready.
Exciting. So how many people are on your team, on the growth team?
On my team, it's kind of hard because I guess the entire team is growth, but I have like a few, like a growth manager, 2 account coordinators, and then an account manager. And so we have 15 people in total at Sharma Brands that work on our clients.
Amazing. Yeah. I just see like all the time, it looks like people, the team's growing and office is building and new brands. So a lot going on. Do you still do anything with Poosh, or are you like friends with them?
No. So for all of my past brands, I was always full-time and in-house, and then moving just from in-house to in-house. So this is my first like foray into, I learned the word foray.
There you go.
I do know how to use it. Cool. It's my first like agency side gig where I help like dozens of brands in a year, which is really cool.
Yeah. That's great. So at Sharma, I know, we talked a little bit earlier about there are some brands that you're working on like in-house, I think owned by Sharma, and there are others who you take on in like a consulting capacity. I'm curious how you, I have a few questions about that, but sort of how do you balance that in terms of like workload and are you constantly evaluating brands to sort of take ownership of, or is most of the strategy just to like help other brands grow? Like what's the dynamic there for Sharma Brands?
I think the goal is just growth overall. So if that means taking over a brand and making it our own, or if it means bringing on like a really cool client that we can learn something with. I don't think that one takes precedent over the other. And the beauty is the same team works on both. So whatever we can accomplish for our clients, we can then do for our own owned brands. And they help each other because we're able via our client industry to see like exactly what's happening across verticals, see where the opportunity may be. And then with our own brands, we're able to experiment with our own money and test our own thing. So it makes us better for the client. It's a little like baby ecosystem, but the same team touches both, which I think makes us stronger and it keeps it fresh.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we see the value in that even from, you know, our partnership side where oftentimes like for your in-house brands, we're able to like offer some sort of, you know, preferred pricing or something just because we know how far that goes and like making sure that your brands are successful, but also that it becomes sort of promotion, right?
Totally. It's like its own ecosystem incubator.
Yes. Yeah. What like, I'm always curious about this, but what would make you, you know, you and Nik excited about potentially acquiring a brand or like launching something new? Are there specific verticals that you're really excited about? Like what are the circumstances that lead you to say like, let's actually take this on like in more of an ownership capacity?
It really depends. I think I am kind of like the wet blanket of the group where there might be like a really cool brand. And then I'm like, cool, like, let's look at the P&L, like the margin. Like, I don't like this. I don't like this vertical. It only leaves us like $9 on an order or whatever. And then I kind of like crush the dream. But it's a good balance because Nik has just so many deals that come across his plate. And then he has me to be like, this is a good idea, or this is scary. I don't want you to touch this.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I feel like you kind of need the good cop, bad cop in that scenario.
Yeah, I'm definitely bad cop, and it's a good. I wear it with pride, so it's okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, good for you for knowing and being like, like this isn't what we should do. Like, I think that also feeds really well into like being VP of growth. Like, you can't say yes to everything all the time, right? So like, how do you make sure that you're making informed decisions? I know myself, and I would fall into the category that it seems like Nik is in, where it's like so exciting. Like, I would love to do this, but that's not what you can do.
Yeah, really. It's a good balance. And like the great news is everyone on our team has different experience. So some of us have been in agencies our whole career. Some of us have been brand side. So I think being brand side, it teaches me also how scary it is if you live and die by one brand only, and how that every brand that comes into our fold has to make sense, because otherwise we'll just eventually run into a mountain. So it's like to understand the pressure of a single brand, and each brand has to work for it to be worth our time.
Are you finding real quick, like those margins where you're looking at a brand and going like, we should pursue this, we shouldn't? Is that like in-house that you're taking that from, or is that from your previous experience on the brand side of things where you're just like, I know this industry, this vertical is not the way to go?
I think it's both. So in my past, I'd only really been in CPG or in beauty, and beauty is just its own beast. And that's what I know most. And then from CPG, I think you can see all types of different brand sizes, and it really just depends. But definitely even in our client business, we see what verticals are on fire and where there's room in marketing budgets and just where it makes sense. So brands with either like high velocity or high repeat orders, those are the brands that are really exciting because just the LTV of it all starts to make more sense. But it's also really fun to work on something that's more expensive because it's just a customer that I know well and that I really love to engage with, but you just have to have the right product to sell to them. So it's its own world, but it's a good balance, and the entire team has like really strong opinions and really good backgrounds for it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah.
In coming from the brand side, I would imagine that, and now, you know, VP of growth at a huge agency that has its hands in so many different buckets. Growth means so many different things now. I'm curious, like what was the most challenging thing that like you didn't have the skill set in when you joined Sharma to sort of get really, really good at? Because I imagine that you were a little bit more focused in some of the brands. And here it's like, holy cow, we have to do everything.
Yeah. I think this is like the first client business I've ever been in, and like a client facing role, which it works well because I'm a ham. But I think that in my previous life, had always spent my meetings with my team or like with vendors, but never trying to serve a client. So that's its own world. But my first job ever, after I dropped out of law school, was as a e-commerce customer service agent. So that's like serving customers in its own world, but I crushed like over 100 tickets a day. So this is like a cakewalk compared to like an influx of tickets. And so that's what I tell myself every time I go into a client meeting, that at least it's, like a relationship with words, and you can actually like talk to them and work with them together. So that was just the biggest change, is like having clients that you owe deliverables to and that you are accountable to, versus having just one team that you work for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, like, if you're just if you're just handling like hundreds of tickets a day, it's like all negative stuff that you have to troubleshoot. Brutal. And now you're on the flip side of like bringing exciting, productively exciting solutions, not like, hey, what the hell is going on? Where's my order?
Where's my order? I don't like the way this tastes. All of that. I don't need. So it's all a cakewalk comparatively.
Awesome. Okay. So between you and Nik, and I'm sure others on the team, but we're most familiar with you two. Like I said, you have the Go to Millions newsletter, super popular, very active on Twitter too, which Mariah probably knows a little bit more about than me, because I still haven't created a new Twitter since deleting my college age Twitter.
I am happy for you. Don't come to this side.
But, and then obviously Nik's following as well is equally humongous. So I'm curious, that's one thing, but getting to that point is something totally different. And I think what hopefully, or what most likely has helped you get there, is because Sharma Brands does have a little bit of a unique approach compared to other agencies and agency brands in the Shopify ecosystem. In your sort of opinion, what do you think makes Sharma Brands stick out from the pack? There's like a new 20 new agencies entering the Shopify ecosystem every day, it seems like. So how have you been able to sort of cut out like a good following? And also results speak for themselves too. And I know y'all produce those. So what makes
the beauty of it is we are never going to be an agency that scales up and loses its sort of level of service or the quality of the people who work here, because that's not the model. So this isn't a come one, come all, Sharma Brands can help your brand. It's like there's a waiting list and there's a full like ICP of who our client should be, and we only work with that client. And it's not because we don't have interest in other verticals or brands of other sizes. It's more that we don't want to scale the team to the point where we lose the heart of why this is a special place to be and why it's a special place to have work for you. Because if our agency loses like the hands that touch these brands, or if we get too busy, or if we have to bring in too many people in 1 year, then we won't have the same caliber. So it's just like Sharma Brands isn't competing for the work is coming, and then we just assess if we can take it on with the right team and do a good job for the client. So it's definitely its own little like slice of heaven in that way, where we're not like pitching our asses off for clients.
Yeah. It sounds like there's some like employee satisfaction mixed in there.
Totally. Because the team has been this. So when I came on, I was employee 4. And now we're at 15. And even that each new hire is like a really big deal to us. And we like basically only will bring in a new teammate if we like are positive that they like are the perfect fit for like the skill set, but it's actually like its own little friend group in its own way. So you have to like not ruin the energy of the agency, because we just don't want to be this like 600 person agency where there's all these weird dynamics. It has to be like a group that enjoys each other, because when we have fun, then the work is cool and then the clients are happy. And if someone comes in and they're an asshole, it ruins the whole vibe. So it has to be really careful as we scale up. And I don't think the plan is to become huge ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because the episode that we just released today, Mariah, I was listening to at lunch, and we talked about how, like, at a certain point in some of the past companies I've been at, because I was on like the enterprise MarTech side, at a certain point, the red tape becomes so frustrating because you've had to put all these standard processes in place that like don't account for the human aspect of like working with in certain situations or under certain circumstances. Everything takes so long to get done. Right. And it sounds like you're intentionally trying to stay below that level for the need for the red tape. So that
1,000%, like our clients like have our phone numbers, and we will text with them, and have like on launch day, we're waking up at 4 a.m. with them and like on the phone celebrating with them. And if it ever loses that, then we're not better than any other agency, because we don't know how to have an agency of 400 people. We only know how to do this. So we have to keep it what it is so it stays as it should be.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is definitely a unique approach. I think a lot of the agencies in the space are just like grow at all costs and, you know, take on any work that they can. And then obviously there are some downsides to that. So
totally. It depends on also like the scale of the client. Some clients, they just need maybe 1 or 2 things, or they need like something that is like a good deal or whatever it might be. But this is more like a long-term, like full takeover situation.
Yeah. I'm happy you went there, because that was actually going to be my next question. Kind of looping these two together. What is the ICP? You talked a little bit about it earlier. And then what does a typical engagement look like from like start to finish for sure?
Yeah. So ICP definitely is a brand that either has a big audience that's waiting for this product. Let's say it's a creator brand that is stealth pre-launch. That's perfect. That is what we do best. That's really our team's specialty, is to take a brand, build the entire website, design it, handle the devs, bring in all agencies, set the brand up for launch, and then help it to scale. That's the bread and butter. And then the other side is the growth stage companies that are doing like 8 figures, and they have a specific problem, and they could use a partner to help them get to 9 figures, or that can help them to fix part of their funnel, or something has either gone wrong or there's just room to scale that hasn't been realized. That's also a great sweet spot. And for that client, it might be just taking over, redoing their tech stack, introducing them to the right people, building landing pages, building ads, redoing parts of their website, and just like optimizing the entire experience. That's the other client. But there's really nothing in between those two. You're either going to be a big brand that's about to launch, or you're a big brand that needs some help. And those are both perfect for us.
Got it. In terms of vertical, would you say that there are any that sort of stick out, or anything?
No, we do. We've in the last year done CPG, beauty, alcohol. We've done apparel. We've done like luggage. It doesn't matter as long as they are like hungry to grow.
Got it. And then when you're, especially on the pre-launch side, but I guess the question could apply to both, you're doing a lot of, what you kind of talked about was a lot of web dev and like acquisition side. So where does the retention component come in? Are you doing email, SMS, and all of that stuff too? And
yeah, so it depends. So we will typically, each client we bring on, if they're already existing, we'll do a full audit of their CRM and see, this is the experience, these are the opportunities. But then what we'll do is bring in our favorite email partner, bring in our favorite SMS agency, and bring in the right tech behind it, and then help to synchronize what's happening in retention with what's happening on the site, what's happening on paid acquisition, and make it all sync together. But we don't actually offer email and SMS as a core service. It's more, we'll bring you to the right people and then help to manage that with you.
Got it. Okay. Makes total sense.
Because we keep control of all of the agencies that we help bring on. So we sit in those same meetings with the client. And
cool.
It's really important to us that if we introduce you to someone, that we still help to manage that relationship, just because we might know what's happening on paid more than the client might know. So we bring everyone together, and then we bring in our favorite partners, and we help to make it sing as a group.
Yeah. Yeah. One of our previous guests and partners of ours does kind of both acquisition and retention. And their argument for why they do that is because they're like, if you don't sort of coordinate or orchestrate those efforts across both sides of the funnel, like you're probably going to be only measuring, like you're going to be measuring metrics in like a single sort of like tunnel vision
Right.
manner. And then like you don't realize, like, while you've beefed up ad spend and that's looking really, really good, like you might not realize the effects it's having on the other side, on the retention side. And
Right.
like with that, but in your case, while you're not doing that, you're at least you're always at the table, so you can kind of do
Exactly.
that without needing to own it fully. Is
Right.
that fair to
We
say?
we act as like pretending we're the in-house growth team. So
Sure.
pretending that I'm in a meeting with the media buyers as if it was my own budget I had to live and die by and be metriced on. And that's how the entire team sits in these meetings. We pretend like it's our money and our brand and the only brand we ever think of. And then it helps you to be like passionate about what happens as the result. And then even if you only focus on the paid side, or the top line metrics of this is our CAC or whatever, what if that's like a bad customer that isn't a fit, that churns out? And why wouldn't that be something that we think through too? Because what does that actually do to benefit the brand? It's like you have to see both sides of the numbers to know the truth. And then if both sides look good, then you've actually done a good job.
Sure. Sure. Yep. That's awesome.
Ari, I have a quick question for you. So I know this popped into my mind because as we were talking about like the internal structure of Sharma, with like not growing too fast or like knowing what you do really well. And now we're talking about the brand side of things and like your ICP. And do you think there's ever the same argument to be made about like a brand where they could grow too fast, too quickly for like what they're trying to accomplish? Because I know you're working with, you said like either large brands about to launch or already large brands who want to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you like, do you think there's something similar in there of what you've seen with Sharma at all?
I think it's a great point. And I think that sometimes a brand will scale because of the circumstances of their product. So maybe it's like, I don't know, a sweatpants brand during COVID. Like that's a great place to be. And right. You're definitely not prepared, and like the inventory snags and all of those sort of beautiful headaches that arise with success. I think we see that play out all the time too. And that's a beautiful problem to solve. And what's good too about our team is we have operations managers and people on our team. Like I used to be an e-commerce manager who used to sit and manage our 3PL all day too. So there's people on our team that have deep experience there, and we have those relationships to help in those pinches, even if it's not our core service. But internally for us too, we have this happen too, where we'll have maybe a fleet of 10 clients that we work on. And then one of them will, instead of needing 7 landing pages that month, maybe they actually need 40 or 30. And that's a beautiful experience as an agency with like revenue goals, but it's also really scary with real people and real designers, and, like the quality of work has to stay. And so we have also had to hire really quickly sometimes. And the beauty of it too, is we are all just living and breathing this space. So it's normally hiring a friend that we know or someone who is coming to us. So it's a bit safer to move more quickly, but it does happen. So I guess it's all meant to be slow, and it's all meant to be this beautiful plan. And the reality is sometimes it just has to move more quickly, but it's like the same growing pains, and it's better than if, we were overstaffed and if our clients had too much inventory. So we'll take it.
Right. Yeah. Good problem to have. I know we felt it on our side of things too, where it's like, it's really exciting when you get that kind of momentum and you're like, okay, we got to go, like, got to publish whatever this is. But it also can be like, once it's done, you're like, whoa, that was a lot. And now we're on to the next thing.
And
right?
we asked a lot of people, and then like, what can we do to better plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a living, breathing, like dynamic organism. I feel like
100%.
Yeah, like in my world, the translation is making sure that we have the agency partner bench of, service partners that can help us if we get an influx of 20 new customers in a week and they all want support in setting up Malomo. Like it's a very real problem, good problem to have.
Yeah, champagne problem.
It can be an issue if you don't have that sort of planned out in terms of how you would support that. So good problems to have. I'm happy we're experiencing them, and also happy that we're partnered on it too.
Yeah.
Okay, switching focus a little bit to retention. You guys are super focused on the growth side, but as we all know, like acquisition costs going up in crazy ways, and like the focus on responsible growth is sort of ever increasing, both for SaaS companies like us, but also D2C brands. So intentionally open and sort of vague question. How do you think about retention, and what are sort of like the most important drivers of it that you see and work with brands on?
I think for us, we like to just make sure we've set the stage to the customer so they understand what's going to happen before they've given us a penny. And so we do that by over-educating on our landing pages, by not having those weird like sneaky offers, or we never default to subscription when you come in to buy it for the first time. We just don't like to play that sort of cheap direct response game, because we'd rather lose $2 in the beginning and make that up by having someone have had the experience you said you were going to give them. So we don't do pre-order. We don't do like, any sort of tricky offers ever. It's against everything we've learned just from the scars of having tried that before. So it's just setting the right stage in the beginning. And then in our web design and in all of our creative and all of our offers, it's just making clear this is the brand you want to be a part of. This is not a product you buy, but a community you join. And then following up on that. So if, let's say, they come in and the first order is for, like a $50 AOV, maybe we sneak like a handwritten note or a pair of socks or something that you didn't expect in that first order to get them to come back, and then just controlling the whole narrative so that they know that whatever they just bought is just the beginning of their experience with the brand. And I personally love an acquisition offer that isn't like gonna fulfill every single need, because I don't think it should be too expensive at the beginning. I think you should let someone get their feet wet and come and have a positive experience with your best product, and then bring them into the fold and let them explore from there. But I don't like to sell, a 7-item bundle in the first minute always. I don't think that that's always the move. So it's just like whetting the customer's appetite and then giving them more than they expect, and then just coming at them in a non-aggressive but like very informational heavy way for the rest of their journey.
Yeah, I love the approach to education. I think a use case that like we probably don't talk enough about at Malomo is, and it was like one of the first use cases, to be honest, because when Yao and Anthony started the company, really their entire goal was to just reduce customer churn post-purchase. Like most customers won't come back after just one bad order tracking or order experience, shipping experience. So like the first goal was just like, let's keep these. That was before we realized like this could be an actual revenue driving channel that brands are losing or leaving, 6-7 figures on the table if they're not, upselling and cross-selling through the post-purchase journey. But that kind of all came later. And one of the initial use cases that some brands still use as their hero use case with Malomo today is simply product education. So for a brand like Caraway, who makes really nice, but on the more expensive side, pots and pans, they realized that like they would get complaints and customers would try to return pans that were like ruined because they weren't cared for properly. And like, you shouldn't put Caraway pans in a dishwasher, but people were doing that, and the pans weren't lasting, but they had spent a couple $100. So they're pissed so now Caraway's main use case on a Malomo page is just like, here's how to care for the pan and get the most out of it when it arrives. And like that alone is such a great retention driver, because it means that their customers are getting more bang for their buck. They're getting more out of the product. And now they're more likely to come back and buy, the other accessories that Caraway makes for the kitchen.
I love that. And I think too, even just clicking the link to your tracking and landing, and it's a branded experience, even if there's nothing more than it's in colors, I'm just like, oh, cool. Like they care. Like this is cute. This is like, I'm glad I I bought this brand, like I think it's going to be a good product because they pay attention to detail. Even if it's nothing past that, I still think that in itself is a good look. And even if that was the only function, for the cost, it does like pay for itself just for that positive experience when someone's checking their order and it's not like a USPS page that no one wants to see.
Yeah.
I've been talking about that so much lately. Like, you don't have to overthink this. Just by bringing customers back to your website who go to track their order, you are recapturing 15% of your web traffic. Like 15% of all web traffic on e-commerce sites goes to the order tracking page. So if you're sending them to UPS, you're literally just losing 15% of your web traffic. So could not agree more with that, Ari.
I have a quick question about, like Ari, you said there's certain like moves or like a playbook that you all follow and like doing things like bundling and trying to get like pre-order tickets before a launch. Can you like explain a little bit more about the pre-order? It's like a smaller question, but I feel like we don't normally have brands or guests on this podcast where it's like they're dealing with pre-launched brands. So I'm just curious, like, why is that maybe something that you don't personally like, or that you all don't go down that route with?
Yeah. So pre-launch is really fun because often, at least in my experience here and just in my experience in my past, you aren't known to anyone. Like when I worked for About Face Beauty, we were so stealth to the point that our email addresses, when we were working with our partners, it was the holding company's name. And no one knew the celebrity, no one knew even the vertical, and each partner was just told the information they needed. Our packaging on the outside of the cardboard box was labeled without the brand name, just because like you just have this launch moment and you can only have that once and you have to come onto the earth once. And so when you are stealth like that, there's just such a pressure too of testing the entire experience. And for me, if there's going to be this launch moment of momentum of this is us, like hello world, I'd love for that person to then be able to pay right then and to buy their thing and to get it in 3 days so that they can tell someone else it's actually good. And so when you start taking people's money and you don't ship out for weeks, or let's say even if you're a known brand who's gone out of stock on a hero SKU, unless you're shipping in the next week, I want like a pre-order button, or I'd rather a notify me button, because I don't like to hold people's money and not give them the thing that they need, because people get really pissed. And I get really pissed. And I have an example personally where I ordered a treadmill in August and it didn't say it was out of stock. It didn't say that it was shipping late. No, I literally sent a screenshot of it to my husband because I was like, can I get this? So that's the reason I have like the proof that it didn't say this. Like, I'm not crazy. And it's coming this week and it's February. And
oh my God,
pissed. I am pissed. And they gave me like $100 back, blah, blah, blah. But I'm really pissed. And I would have canceled my order, but I really want this treadmill. And it's this whole thing where I don't need that. Because guess what? I'm never buying it again. I'm never recommending it. I've like talked shit about it to everyone I've ever met. And I don't think as a brand who's coming like into the earth, you need any of that pressure. So for me, unless it's either in warehouse received or in a pallet waiting to be received, I don't want it for sale. And that's how I live and breathe. And that's how we advise our clients to live and breathe, because the payoff is not worth it. And even if someone knows they're going to wait, what if you have to wait 2 more weeks? Then you've like lied, and you don't need that. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know where the product is, and if it's not in your hands, you don't actually know the timeline. So it's a very passionate opinion that I don't want to be a part of anything that is, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in our books that we have sold and not one client has received it. I don't need to sleep like that. I don't like that.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't be sleeping.
And like maybe it's the old like customer service in me, but like I don't play that.
Yeah.
It really freaks me out.
Yeah, that game seems very finicky to play, and like not having any experience in that industry at all of like pre-launch. But it seems like too, like unless you don't know pre-launch of like what it's going to even take on the like logistical side of things, like you could have a huge influx of people, right? And then think that you're going to ship something out like next week, like you're saying, and then you it's a successful launch and you have way more momentum going into it. So that makes a lot of sense. I also think it's really cool to have that opinion of, if you're like in this stealth mode, you're trying to like, you're going to like every possible length that you can to keep it a secret. I think generating all that momentum and someone being able to, like, while they're the most excited, click on that buy button and buy right then and then know it's on its way, rather than a pre-order and having to wait for it. It also, and this taps into like Malomo, our expertise of it. Malomo, it like continuously keeps exciting someone because they're getting reminded that their gift or their product is on the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if something's in pre-order, then you could lose some of that excitement, and then that might feel like what that excitement might translate into is like buyer's remorse or
right.
like guilt around buying, because you're like, why was I so excited about this thing? Because you already know about it now.
Right.
And say it's like 2 months have passed, or
right.
like you said, from August to February, right? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with just what we see with Malomo, where it's like a week goes by or like
right.
a couple of days, right? And it's like still like, oh my God.
And none of those experiences, like Malomo and all of your welcome flows, all of your post-purchase flows, none of those are built for, 19 days between order and ship. None of them are built for 19 days. Actually, it's 42, but we got to tell them on day 18. Like, nothing is set up like that, because that's a terrible experience. So none of your partners, none of your software are best optimized when you have that experience. And the only reason a brand would jump the gun and do a pre-order is because they need the cash, which is short-sighted, because you're going to oversell, or you're going to sell and then you're going to have to return a lot of that money, or no matter what, that customer is never coming back, even if you can somehow get them to hang on. And it's just, you need to do everything in your power to have enough runway for those like little receiving errors or fulfillment errors or whatever it's going to be that could push you back. It's not an excuse to jump the gun and launch something that's not ready.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right. Oh, that's really interesting. On the pre-launch side, obviously you're like protecting the brand identity and all of that, but do brands or have you seen brands, do you advise the brands do any sort of like testing pre-launch to get like market validation and drum up some excitement about this new thing? Or is it like, is stealth and you do nothing until the brand's actually launched?
So that's such a good question. In the brands I've touched, it's normally like, our lips are sealed. This product is great. We've, ship tested it. We've gone and, maybe sent it to 200 friends or whatever, but there's no like soft launch into the market. But in a brand that we're working on internally, we are soft launching in. We're not putting our name on it, and we are fully letting the market dictate, what this will end up looking like. And once it starts to scale is when eventually maybe we'll claim it, maybe not. But I think there's a great beauty in soft launching when you can. If you don't have the pressure of VCs and, maybe like celebrity clients who might, like, if they launch something, there's no such thing as a soft launch because Twitter will find out, or YouTube, or whoever it might be. But I think if it's my perfect world, I'd rather bring something to market, test what I even name it, like what colorways, what price, what demographic I show it to, whatever it is, I would rather, and I think you'll have a better result if you can do that. But we have been blessed with the golden handcuffs of just like a ton of traffic on launch day, which it's really fun. And it's also like, it makes you want to throw up because you're like, we haven't tested the system. We just took the password off. This happened to us last week where like the brand announced via like a really important news article at 9 a.m. Eastern. So at 8:57, we took the password off. And like, it's stressful because like, what if it's just, we forgot one thing, or what if, and then the second it is born, there's like 30,000 visitors.
Right.
So it's just a different feeling. It makes you sick, but then it's really cool when it works.
I bet those 3 minutes, like taking out the password and just waiting, are like the longest minutes of your life.
It's not only that, it's like, there's always a time when it's like a very stealth brand where somehow a part of it like becomes more public than it was meant to be. And then you look at your team, you're like, did anyone say anything? Like, who did you email? And then we realize they like look at like the patent that was filed and it's no one's fault. And you're like, okay, we're good. Like, it's not us, no problem. So there's just all those little moments that lead up to a launch. But then when it does go well, it's like heaven.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, congrats. Last week, new one launched.
Yeah.
So
I
remember now our head of strategy, who I've clearly had drinks with before, was like, No, she was like, Noah's already got the pre-made espresso martini on the way.
I love it. I love it. Recommend. That's the one that's shipping to me right now. Recommend.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yes, we'll definitely have to check it out. Okay, just a few minutes left. I would be remiss not to ask you about 2023 trends. So last year, I kind of talked about one, which is like kind of a shift from acquisition to retention being a bigger thing, I think, for brands than it has been in years past, just because of the rising ad costs and need for profitability. What else are you thinking about in terms of what will sort of lead the Shopify ecosystem through this year?
I think that as people are more concerned with just what's happening in the world, or even with just their own responsibility, maybe right now everything's Gucci, but they're scared of the future. I think there's going to be a shift into fewer better, which is my favorite way to shop anyways, where maybe you buy fewer things, but you buy things that are built to last, or that you've thought more deeply about. And maybe, just like a random ad doesn't get you. You need a recommendation from an influencer that you really trust. But I think that more expensive won't be what breaks brands right now. It'll be brands that don't fulfill on the better part of the fewer better. So I think the brands that have a product that says and does what they say it will do, and that is actually quality, will make it out of this year even stronger, because people will be more trusting to give them their money again. So fewer better is the best way, I think, to treat a downturn or whatever is going to happen this year, because people will still shop. It'll still feel really important to buy things, and they'll still have wants and needs, but they don't want to regret the things they bought because life's already hard.
Right. Yeah, I think that hits on a couple really important aspects to a lot of people. And it's not just the economics of fewer better. I think it's also like the economic effects of fewer better and the ease of fewer better. Like when you don't have to buy, like I buy nicer clothes. Like I buy Lululemon is my favorite clothing brand, and the stuff is expensive, but it lasts forever.
Yeah. Cost per wear. I can justify anything. Shoes, you divide it by 2. Like it's perfect. So I think the Lululemon or the equivalent, or I just bought a pair of leggings from Set Active, and they're not cheap. They're not expensive. I just bought them because I heard they were amazing. And I think that's why people are going to buy things. It's less price sensitivity and more quality sensitivity, which is like how we should have been running this all along anyways. Like no one should be buying crap. So I'm excited to see the brands that put the product first.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great one.
I also think, real quick, to add to that, like I know I've seen trends around like decluttering too, like higher quality stuff. Like I just feel like everyone right now is in that mindset of where it's like, okay, what do I really need? And what do I just have that like I don't know why I have this, or like I bought it a long time ago. I feel like it also, like fewer better also lends itself into that, because it's just like, okay, I like the idea of like minimalism or minimalistic, like whether it's something with like furniture, your closet. Yeah. Like just having only essential items. And I've also now seen on TikTok of just like de-influencing and being like, you don't need all of these things. Like just get these core products that you actually need. And like people being like, this is just like a hot trend, right? Like fast fashion or whatever is going to be dead. I feel like now people are like, okay, go into like lean into what you actually need and what you actually want and what's essential.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mariah. AI is another thing that's come up often when we've asked this question.
Yeah.
Are you all at Sharma doing anything with it yet? Or are there ideas floating around about how you might be able to leverage it to do more efficient work or better? Yeah. What's the general thing?
So it's a tricky question. I think there's a place for it. And I think it eventually will become even bigger in our current life of what we do. But like we have a client that's a really small team, and they are standing up a blog for SEO, and why couldn't the like ChatGPT write like 1,000 articles for them? That would be cool. They don't have to hire someone. But I think that some of our like deepest ad copy or our landing page copy, I think we aren't ready to fork that over. But on just like the social side or landing page testing of different headlines, how could we rewrite this? I think you could feed it, and it just depends on what you feed it. And if you feed it with the right rules, then there's a lot of opportunity. And my husband, he has like a really big newsletter, and he will use ChatGPT to help him like make sure that whatever he's saying is clear. And if ChatGPT can spit it out and it makes sense, then he's like, okay, how I input it was clear, so this is good. So maybe he'll take his version, maybe he'll take theirs. But he like, if it can output what you mean for it to output, then whatever you fed it was correct. So I think there's a stake in that too, and even just add copy and things like that. But I need to get with the program a little more.
I like the use case of like using AI as kind of like a spell check.
Yeah, like, or like a subject line test. Yeah, it's a good way to expand on something, but I think it's also a good way to be like pretty generic unless you feed it the right things, or take it and don't just give what it spit out as final form, and to take a spin like with a human on it. But it's definitely a thing. I just need to figure out how we can use it in a smarter way.
I think the cool thing about that answer is it's like things that brands who are listening could actually implement like today.
The blog post thing is clutch because no one's reading that. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Make some keywords and let it fly.
Yeah,
that's fine.
there you go. Okay, we're coming up right to time. So last question. You've obviously had just an awesome career so far, Ari. So we like to ask, like, what's one tip or trick that you've used throughout it to sort of get you to where you are today and continues to guide your work?
I am a proud reformed job hopper. So when I was coming up in my career, I worked at 4 brands in 2 years, and I am proud of that. And I think that advice would be stick at a brand or stick in a job for 2 years and get promoted. But you can do anything you want if it teaches you more and pays you more in the next step. And so I think that you should just like pave your own path. And I'm a law school dropout, so I don't mind to quit something if I know something's better for me on the other side. So just like, don't be scared to just not do what everyone says you're supposed to do, and it will serve you. And just once you find something you like just double down on it.
Absolutely love that. Unconventional advice. I think most people
quit your job.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Treat me well or bye. Yeah.
I did a lot of the same. Like I joined Malomo. I've been friends and worked with Yao and Anthony in the past. But so I've been really close to them for a long time. The last job I was at was awesome, but I left after a year because they called and it was a
better opportunity that hits your heart. It's fine. It'll work out.
Exactly.
Ari, I totally thought for a second, I was like, I wonder if Ari's going to say, starting the Twitter, that Nik had said like so ever long ago, if that was going to be your advice. Feel like that changed it all.
No, well, I still to this day, I hate Twitter. I'm one of those people that like puts my thing up and I run away and I don't come back unless I'm checking on it. Like if I don't like your stuff on Twitter, it's because I haven't seen it. I don't want to be there. I just do my thing and I run away and try not to
like,
get
this
sucked
is
in.
my obligation. I have to do it. And
this isn't sparking joy, but we're gonna just deploy and run away. But Twitter is not what I owe my life to. I refuse. I won't give it any credit.
Job hopping sounds way more fun.
Job hopping is honestly, it's worked really well.
I love that.
Great. All right, kids, quit the job.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You heard it here first.
Thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. We took the whole hour, so it was a great conversation, and really, really appreciate you giving us and the listeners an hour of your very precious time.
Well, thanks for having me. I had a ball, and I'm really excited for you guys to do an offsite in Austin and then to move here full time. So looking forward.
Love it.
Yes.
Cool.
Agreed.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.